I'm just out here at the clear-cutting moratorium protesting for a moratorium on clear-cutting. Not a bad turnout. Traffic's still kind of going.
On the blockades for a couple of weeks. And when he told me that he was going to try and do a hunger strike, I have to confess, I tried to talk him out of it. I was worried. I knew that he'd already been outside. He got arrested. He's been camped outside all of this time. So I was scared when he said he was going to add a hunger strike on top of that. And I said, don't do this. You know, there are other alternatives. Here are some other thoughts for actions you can take. And this is what he texted me back, and it silenced me. And I'm going to read it to you because it went straight to my heart, and I think it speaks for all of us. He wrote, I'm frustrated because I don't feel there is time to waste. And the people in charge are not taking the problem seriously. I don't know how to affect change. And the future scares me. I don't know what to do. And that seems like a voice for so many people, a voice for young people, but a voice for all of us. We're scared and we don't necessarily know what to do, and we don't know how to affect change. I think sometimes if we keep having more and more outrage, that will make change and that will make us act. But I'm not sure that's true. You know, we can take another picture of a clear cut and another picture of a clear cut. You know, it was so outrageous to us that they were going to go in and clear cut moose country when there'd been sightings of moose right in that area down in Digby County, and the government had just been found at fault for not enforcing the Endangered Species Act. How could the government be allowing this to be happening? So yeah, we were outraged. And we can keep hitting that outrage button, but I'm not sure that's enough to affect change. And I'll tell you something that happened when we were camped out on that logging road, which was an hour away from any paved road and cell phone signal and all that. You might think that you would be alone out there, but we had a lot of visitors. And a lot of them were hunters, and they had grown up in that area. And the first time one drove up, I thought, uh-oh, what are they going to have to say? Well, I'll tell you what they had to say. They told us, I 100% support you. That was every hunter who came past that blockade. And you know why they did that? Because they had grown up in that area. They had hunted those woods. They had blinds, and they knew those woods like the back of their hands. And this is what a lot of them said. And then one day they came out and the woods were gone. They were clear cut and they got lost. This place they had known like the back of their hands, it was gone and they got lost. So the people there, they were full of outrage and they were full of pain. They really cared about that land. But they were also full of despair. Because what they also said is, but what are you going to do? This is just what they do. They come and they take the woods. And there wasn't anybody there who had any feeling that they could make change. Because that's been people's experience in rural Nova Scotia with resource extraction, right? That this comes and what are you going to do? They come and they take it. So it's not enough to be outraged. It's not enough to care. I'll tell you, we spent a lot of time going around festivals and talking to people about clear cutting. Nova Scotians hate clear cutting. Like, you know, the crustiest old guy would come trotting across the road to us where we'd be handing out leaflets, and I think, oh, he's going to give us shit. No, he'd come over and say, I'm really glad you're doing this, because somebody stopped by my place and told me they'd give me X $1,000 for clear cutting my woods, and I told them to buzz off, because I hate what's happening. So people care, but they despair about having a way to take action. And that was what Jacob was saying. How do we affect change? How do we make something happen? Well, I'll tell you something. Doing the blockade was a direct action, and I have never felt better. You know, it was cold, and it was scary, and it was inconvenient. It was difficult, just like what Jacob's doing is difficult. But it felt really good to be taking direct action. And I think that we have to start working together to take direct action. Not everybody can go camp on the logging road. Not everybody can go on hunger strike. Not everybody can get arrested, you know? But we can all do something. And the something begins to add up. And yeah, I'm sick of petitions and letters and protests. I spent years and years thinking, what is it that's going to get us moving? Because we know that we're in danger. We know that terrible things are happening to Mi'kma'ki. We know terrible things are happening to the planet. What would get us moving? I'll tell you what got me moving. I saw a picture of an Extinction Rebellion banner with a few people holding it across a logging road in southern Nova Scotia a couple of years ago. And I thought, hey, they're actually doing something. They're actually out there doing something. What is this organization? And I found out they were taking over the centre of London. That they turned one of the bridges over the Thames into a garden bridge. That they parked a pink boat in the middle of Oxford Circus. That they were disrupting the centre of London. They were making it very inconvenient for the traffic. And they brought real change in England. You know, the conversation shifted. People began to realize, like, hey, we do have to take this seriously. So what I think is that together we have to do everything. Everybody has to do something that they can do. And if that's signing a petition, that's fine. You know, when we put out the press release for this, we were able to say 38,000 people have signed the Nature Nova Scotia petition. 38,000 people. You know, 10,000 people have sent postcards to the Minister of Lands and Forestry. Alone that won't do it. But alone Jacob's hunger strike won't do it. Alone getting arrested in the woods won't do it. We have to all be doing all of it and working with each other, and that's what's beginning to happen. Is we're beginning to come together and put our voices together. We don't have to have perfect strategy. We don't have to agree with every tactic. We just have to get started. And you know, we started, you know, we had a demand. We wanted the minister to meet with us to talk about what the hell was happening in clear-cutting moose country. We didn't get a single peep of an answer out of that minister. So you could say that we didn't win, but I'll tell you something that happened. It was really hard to get arrested and know that those logging trucks were going to start going in. Well, they went into Rocky Point Lake and they started cutting where there'd been no cutting, and they cut maybe 10% of that cut, and then those logging crews are gone. They are not cutting those areas that we protected. Nobody's admitting that. They're not saying, hey, you won. But guess what? For the moment, we won. Yeah, we do make a difference. Those forests are still standing. Just like the forest we protected with a blockade at Corbett Lake is still standing. Just like the places we camped out last September didn't get sprayed. We do make a difference. They're not going to tell us we made a difference. We're going to have to say, hey, we're here and we make a difference. So keep doing. And Jacob, for God's sake, look after yourself. Because you're a brave man to be doing what you're doing. And we all need to step up with you. Because alone, none of us can do it, but together we can. Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone for being here. I have a speech that I prepared. Just over 3 months ago, I decided to start camping downtown. I was fed up with the lack of action being taken by the provincial government on environmental issues. They were selling provincial parks and arresting those who were trying to get the government to follow their own laws. Laws that the Supreme Court had said they weren't following. In these last 3 months, the situation has not yet gotten better. Premier McNeil prorogued the legislative session and let a Biodiversity Act die. Well, Premier Rankin has passed the Biodiversity Act. It will not come into effect until October. Hey. This slow action with no immediate protection seems to be a trend with our current premier. Rankin has also promised to implement the Leahy report by the end of this year, though has said nothing about a moratorium in the meantime. The forests need protection now. Just over 1 week ago, I started a hunger strike. I demanded of the Premier that he immediately declare a moratorium on all even-aged harvests until key recommendations in the Leahy report were implemented. He has yet to do so. Apparently, the Premier cares no more about starving humans than he does for saving starving moose. We are in the midst of an environmental crisis. The provincial government itself has said as much. I am demanding they act in a way that reflects what they have said. We need bold action now. My future depends on it. All of our futures depend on it. Next page.
You're doing good.
In the past week, people have said to me that a hunger strike is an extreme way of getting my message across. Well, folks, it's time for extreme measures. In 2005, scientists reported that it had been the hottest year on record. Now, the hottest 7 years on record have been the last 7 years. The hottest 5 years on record have been the last 5 years. And according to NASA, 2020 tied for the hottest year on record. I would not be surprised if I do not see a year as cold as 2005 again in my lifetime. The climate crisis requires urgent action. To call it an emergency and then close our eyes and hope it goes away is lunacy. We need to start treating the climate crisis like a crisis. We need to start respecting the ecosystems of Mi'kma'ki. We need to stop clear cutting now! All right, that is the end of my speech. I just have a couple words that I'd like to say. Just a reminder again that we're collecting donations for the Treaty Truck House 3, which was recently vandalized. If you haven't already signed a postcard, you can come up and collect a postcard, get it signed, and leave it here, or actually even better, deliver it to yourself to the Department of Lands and Forestry office, which is in the 3rd floor of 1701, right down the street. Please, everybody today, call your MLA and let them know that you support a moratorium on clear cutting. Call the Premier, let him know you support a moratorium on clear cutting. And call the Department of Lands and Forestry and let the Minister know that you support a moratorium on clear cutting. Recently, the Nova Scotia Wild Floral Society has said that there are blocks designated for harvesting that contain or are in close proximity to a critically endangered ash, which is a species of tree. There is a website on which you can comment on this and all other active harvests or approved harvests in Nova Scotia. I would ask that you please visit this website and do so. It's called the Harvest Plan Map Viewer. If you put that into Google, you'll be able to find the website where you can comment. It's quite tricky, but I'm hoping that you can all figure it out. There's Joan? Joan is going around now collecting the tobacco that they recently passed out. Also last last thing, I guess, or close to the last thing, there will be another rally here next Tuesday. Keep your eye out for it, and I hope you all show up. I guess just the last thing that I would ask of you all is that when you're leaving here on your way out, visit either 1701, 3rd floor, right down the street. That's the Department of Lands and Forestry, and let them know in person that you support a moratorium on clear cutting. Then walk up the street to the building right behind this one, One Government Place. That's where Ian Rankin's office is. Let them know in person that you support a moratorium on clear cutting. Thank you all again for being here. Thanks so much. It's been my pleasure.